So, on this channel, we've always been about bridging the gap between brands and people, big ideas and everyday actions. And today we're tapping into the delivery game with someone who's not just playing it, but flipping the board. Cikida is the general manager of grocery and retail at Uber Eats, where she's shaping the future of how South Africans get their bread, milk, and maybe a cheeky chocolate. Told you there has to be a funny sentence there somewhere. We're talking convenience, innovation, and the power of women leading us from the front, especially when it comes to transforming business as usual. Let's dive in. Cikida, welcome to Mind the Gap. It's great to have you on.
Hi, Kieran. Happy to be here. So thank you for having me.
So, when Britt was putting together just a little bit of a bio for me, I was very interested to see that you've got a background in engineering.
I know, let's all laugh together. I had this idea that I was going to transform energy, and so I studied chemical engineering, and then I went on to do my master's in petroleum engineering, which is also quite interesting, because at the
What?
time I really believed in us pioneering shale gas in South Africa. It's when everyone was talking about shale gas, and I was like, I want
Mm.
to put my hand up and I want to pioneer in this space. And so I studied petroleum engineering. So yeah, I think I'm in retail now in tech. So it just shows that life is quite unpredictable.
Yeah, I mean, when someone says like going from engineering to tech, it seems like a natural step. But from an engineering background to a tech brand like Uber Eats, what made that like transition?
Yeah, that's actually very interesting. So essentially, as I said, like I studied chemical engineering because I didn't know what I wanted to do, post varsity, but I knew I wanted to be in something meaty, right? I knew I wanted to be in like a very, very meaty front forward leading industry, with my ambition. So I studied chemical engineering because I read a career book that said that engineers can work in banks. But my second option was accounting, and I knew that accountants can't work in mining, but they can work in mining, but only as accountants, not as like
Yeah.
engineers. So I knew that chemical engineering would give me options. I could work in investment banking, I could work in consulting, I could work in
Wow.
mines, right? So I studied it because I wanted to think and problem solve like an engineer, not because I wanted to be an engineer. And funny, I won the award at varsity for the one who's most likely to not end up in engineering. So I won the award, and I mean, I guess my colleagues or my classmates at the time could see that she's just here, but she's not interested in being an engineer because I was always doing hosting business seminars on adversity, bringing entrepreneurs in, and I was just always busy, right? And nothing to do with engineering that I was busy with. Then, as I said, like I heard there'll be a shale gas boom, and I was just like, I want to lead this. I want to put my hand up,
Mm.
energy, blah, blah, blah. And so I went to go study petroleum engineering. And again, I went to the US, and my extracurricular activities had nothing to do with engineering. I was like, running there was this organization called 1 Million Cups, and so I became a community leader for 1 Million Cups, which
Sure.
is a program for entrepreneurs to pitch their new ideas. And 1 Million Cups would sort of be that community that helps them shape their ideas, connects them with new opportunities. So there I was, foreign, 23 years old, leading a community in Tulsa, Oklahoma on entrepreneurship. And
What?
Right. I know. And I was flying to Kansas City because I was an organizer, and my parents were like, "Well, you're not there to do engineering." I was like, "Yeah, but like, I'm in America, so I've got to try."
Yeah.
So I was doing that, and then I became a blogger on money, because I was really interested in financial wellness, and then my blogs got, published in some of the famous sort of publications in America, like The Minimalist, The Financial Diet, etc. So I was just busy. I didn't like, I was busy. So even when I graduated, my professors were very shocked. They were like, "We didn't think you were going to make it. We
Wow,
didn't."
that's quite honest, eh?
But like, good on you, good on you. And then I went to McKinsey because I thought, okay, business and industry, if I want to do a little bit of both, then
Mm,
McKinsey has to, or consulting has to be the place where I do it. So I went to McKinsey and then they were like, you're an engineer. They threw me in the mines. They were like, you're going to mines. So I spent like 2 years wearing hard hats and like steel tips. And I really enjoyed operations. So I really enjoyed how even though I wasn't sort of like the engineer there, I was the person
mm,
putting the business and the ops together. I really, really enjoyed that. And then before I left, McKinsey, I did an ops study that was in tech. So we had to build a tech startup from scratch. And I really just found my thing. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is me. E-commerce, like I love this. I can apply my problem-solving engineering brain and my business brain at the same time. And then Uber came knocking, right? So as I was doing that project, the it was called Tola Africa at the time. Uber came knocking and it was taken ops, and I was like, why not, right?
that's it, exactly what you were looking at. Yeah.
Yeah, and like the rest is history. I didn't think I'd be at Uber for almost 6 years now. But yeah,
Wow.
and I'm still here.
That's amazing, hey? I mean, geez, that award all the way in the beginning was quite an accurate one. I mean, now you got that kind of as a badge of honor. Yeah, I didn't go into the field that I studied. I'm actually taking it further and into new grounds, and I think
Yes.
that's absolutely. I love that narrative. I love people that
Yeah.
come from that sort of story. I just celebrate it. It's just always so refreshing. So, tell me, like now at Uber Eats, what does a day in your life look like?
Yeah, so I think no day looks the same. It's a whole lot of problem solving. I solve
Mm,
problems for a living, I would say, right? From delivery problems to client problems to, I solve problems for a living, I would say. So I think my job has evolved over time because I think I was given this challenge. So I first came in at Uber. My job was strategy, customer strategy and operations. So I was really trying to make sure that the customer support experience is seamless for Uber Eats.
yeah.
And then a year into it, then there was this role to say, hey, we need a lead for new business lines or new verticals at the time. Come start anything new, like just start our growth bets, right? So I was thrown into it, had no idea about retail, no idea about like logistics, but I was keen and eager and like very open to solving problems, right? I had no idea how tough my job was going to be because just as I got the role, then Checker 60 launched, and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going
Game
to?
on.
I know, like, I'm not a retailer, I'm an engineer. I'm still in my 20s, and now I have to like go against this behemoth, right? And win all these clients over, right? So then I was given the scope of having two business lines under me, which is Uber Direct, where we do last mile deliveries for some of your favorite delivery apps. So some of those couriers are actually done by Uber. And then also then launch grocery and retail and like win all these retailers over, right? So I think my job has evolved from really just, being out there and trying to build a business out of nothing, right? And problem solving, right? So in saying, if we can't figure out a problem this way, how do we go about another way, right? And I think a great example is how we sort of partnered with a young entrepreneur to launch Uber Eats Market, right? Because we were like, hey, none of the grocers want to play with us, none of them want to come into the space with us, but we want to show them the power of our platform in tech. We want to show them that we have data, we understand the consumer. There's a lot of value they can unlock from
Mm,
partnering with us, even if they have their own channels. So we launched Uber Eats Market. So we bet on a young entrepreneur. He was also in his 20s. He was not a retailer. I was not a retailer. He just came in and said, we'll figure it out. And we did, right? Like we went, we've got 23 sites live now as Uber Eats Market. South Africans love us. We have Fresh Tuesdays we've built a virtual retail brand out of nothing. Just
mm,
by solving problems because we knew South Africans have this problem and we knew we could solve it, right? Um, then working with our clients and showing our clients, hey, we can solve a problem for you, and solving problems for them every day, right? And I just think about the innovation of the partnership we have with Woolworths, with After Dark. Solving the problem of like late night delivery was not easy. It's like, how do we get this right? how do we ensure that the delivery people can maintain your brand? It was a lot of
Yeah.
problem solving, and that still hasn't changed. So my day is problem solving, but problem solving around the customer,
Yeah.
the South African customer, and ensuring that their needs around grocery and retail delivery are being met in new and
Mm.
different and exciting ways, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very consumer centric approach. And I think that's so critical to your business. To like, um, I think that's like the make or break. And I think a lot of tech companies don't always get it. They get lost in the kind of operating details and the data. And
100%.
I It's such a great space for you to start from because I think people in your business need to understand the consumer. It doesn't matter what level you're at within the business, you have to understand the consumer. And then also just understanding
100%.
retail. Like you said, coming from an engineering and ops space, going into retail, that's another like paradigm change. How do you think like South Africa, in terms of its retail space, is matching up to the rest of the continent?
That's a very interesting question, right? So and I could speak to sort of markets that I've experienced, right, in the continent, and I think one that is I one of the markets I look after is Kenya, that is quite close to my heart. I think
Mm,
we are ahead in terms of on-demand delivery, right? In terms of that quick convenience sort of space, and the reason is because of certain things like our mobile penetration, our infrastructure, etc. But I think a market that is a could be ahead of us, I think, or a fast follower, or could be ahead of us is Kenya, right?
mm,
Because Kenya's market is extremely convenience driven, right? So if you look at sort of their border, right? So they've got this sort of segment in sort of transportation called borders, where people actually ride on the back of a delivery person or on the back of a motorbike to get around. And it is so convenient. Like when I went to Kenya, because there's so much traffic, I was on a boat. I was literally riding on the back of a stranger with a helmet. And I was like, this is
mm,
great. And so they've got service lines like Mr. Boda, where it's like Uber package, right? Where you send a guy to go pick something up from you. You have his WhatsApp on your phone. So they don't necessarily focus on having the best apps or the best tech. They focus on having services that work and that offer hyper localized convenience to consumers. And I think they've cracked innovation in that sense to say, if we know that people want to eat food from, they've got food stalls all over the city called kibandas, right? Which are just like
mm,
small food stalls, like food vendors. They are on most of the delivery apps, right? Because the people know that they want that food. So if you really want to crack it into these markets, you really need to understand the psyche and really need to understand
mm,
hyper localized convenience actually works. And then I think speaking about the retail world, I also love how in Kenya retail is an experience, right? So their stores are absolutely beautiful, right? If you walk into some of their retailers like Art Cafe Markets, like Zucchini, you're really walking into an experience. You're not walking into a place where you're just going to buy bananas, right? They really
yeah,
focus on the experience from a brick and mortar perspective. And then from an e-commerce, they focus on a hyper localized convenience, which I think is very similar to South Africa, right? If you look at what Woolworths has launched with their new Emporium, it's an experience, right? If you look at a lot of the other retailers, like Spar's now partnering with Vita Cafe, Checkers has partnered with Kauai, they really
yeah,
focus on saying, how do we then create shopping as an experience, brick and mortar, that can then also coexist with the e-commerce, where e-commerce
mm,
is really about that get it now, get it when you need it. But brick and mortar is more than just shopping. It's really just you walk in and it's an experience, right? So I think there are markets that are sort of catching up with South Africa or leading the way from a South Africa perspective. I think Kenya is one of them, but there are some markets that I think are still lagging behind, especially from a brick and mortar experience perspective. I think Mozambique is
totally.
one of them. Zimbabwe is one of them. I would say, I think Bots is getting there. I think Botswana is one of the markets that's getting there, and they're still far behind on the e-commerce journey, right? So I'd say Kenya,
Mm.
South Africa are the two that are sort of, in my view, leading it, and then other markets are sort of, still catching up.
Yeah, I mean, geez, for a few of the clients that we partner with, their route to market in outside of South Africa is completely bike driven. I mean, when you talk about getting to consumers, conveniently, it's not about brick and mortar. It's, I mean, geez, this is completely different strategies
Mm.
within South Africa and abroad. It's amazing how many businesses are run purely on cell phone. I
Yeah.
mean, just
WhatsApp.
Africa has led the way in terms of internet banking
Mm,
using your cell phone. Is it? And businesses are run off that, but then
mm,
also now managing everything from stock
mm.
to even what the consumers are actually doing.
Yeah.
It's this whole completely different mind shift from our office-based environments here in the cities and in our kind of locum. It's crazy. It's such a interesting dynamic.
Mm.
Like, I think industries are really scrambling to keep up with this one tap away kind of consumer mindset. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, yeah, I think there are, right? I think there are. And I think the reason why I would say sometimes there are is because to be very consumer centric, you're going to have to be very, you're going to have to disrupt yourself, right? And disrupt your thinking
Mm,
every single time. And you're going to have a culture in your company or in your industry that enables that self-disruption and that allows you guys to sort of experiment and fail, right? So it's
mm,
very, very important to have a culture or create create maybe a pocket in your company or pocket in in an industry that can allow that we're gonna at Uber we've got this thing and my husband is like, oh, you and your Uber acronyms called XPs, right, which are experiments. So every new idea we want to try, we're like, oh, okay, let's run an XP, right? So we believe in experimentation. We're like, okay, if we're gonna try something, let's come up with a document, set it up,
yes.
set an XP, share it with everyone, get their comments and like let them be brutal. And then let's try it and share it with everyone to say, hey, we've done something different. It worked or it didn't work. This is why it worked. This is why it didn't work. Right. And I think a lot of industries that, need that innovation, like healthcare, like I would love, like as a pregnant person, I would love to have a doctor on tap, or a prescription on tap where I don't have to leave my house, or like in banking where I can sort of get a lot of things over the line without having to leave my house, right? Like, and those things are just not there yet, right? And I think the reason they're not there yet is because they exist within industries that have legacy systems and legacy thinking where
Mm,
failing is not an option, or even if we say it's an option, it's not welcome, right? If you're going to try something, you have to dot all your I's, cross all your T's, and make sure it works. And those are sort of like very heavy regulated industries that don't want to experiment or are afraid because the culture just doesn't allow it, right? So
yeah.
I think healthcare is just one that, should be tapped into. So I think of like in Kareem, for instance. So in Dubai, there's this super app that Uber bought called Kareem. So there used to be like a mobility service like Uber rides, and now they've tapped into doing delivery like Uber Eats, right? And during COVID, people could actually order or place their COVID what you call their vaccinations on the app. So you could book your vaccinations on the app. You could order medicine, like higher
What?
schedules, prescriptions on the app. Exactly, right? So they've opened up themselves to that hyper convenience. And I think if you think about Dubai as a nation, they're not very old, right? So they haven't sort of built 30 years, 50 years of legacy to sort of disable them from creating industries that can sort of like lead the charge in terms of creating new things
Mm,
because they haven't been around for like 20, 30 years with all that legacy, right? So I think
totally.
there is like white spaces, they exist everywhere. It's just companies need to create cultures or pockets of cultures that can allow disruption and allow experimentation and failure.
Yeah. What have been some of your greatest surprises and lessons, I suppose, from all this innovation and kind of leading it?
Yeah, I think my biggest surprise, there's a difference between what customers say and what customers do. I think that is the biggest surprise I've learned working at Uber to say like the data doesn't lie. And but sometimes there's things the data doesn't tell you, right? So I think there's,
Yeah.
there's two things, right? To say like there's a difference between what customers say and what they do. And sometimes like you still need to go see the customer because there's things that you can't see in the data. So I think the difference between what customers say and customer do, I remember when we were toying around with this like late night trade idea and people were like, who's gonna go shopping at 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. rather, or at midnight. But the data, the sessions were sessioning, like people session at that time, right? Um,
Yeah.
so we were like, okay, we're hearing this, oh, safety at that time, and oh my gosh, how are you gonna make this work? But if you really just open the app and see the sessions at the time, there were plenty, right? And so that's why we took that bet and said, hey, we're gonna go in, we're gonna do late night trade because we believe that there is a space for this, right? And I remember even when we went out with our campaign, we delivered groceries. There was a lot of comments around, oh, but is it safe, etc. But the numbers were fantastic. The numbers grew, right? We saw orders come in, we saw the space coming in. So I think that was the biggest surprise in saying sometimes consumer behavior isn't rational. So you would think people aren't going to do something, but essentially human behavior is very instinctive. So instinctively, if you need medication at 10, you are going to go on Uber Eats and check if they can deliver it. If you
100%.
have the munchies at 11, you are going to go and see if I can find a snack, right? Like that's how human behavior is, because at that time, you're not thinking, is it going to work? Safety. You're just thinking, I need this and I need this now. And anyone who can get it to me should get it to me, right? And then I think the second insight is like there are things the app cannot tell you, right? So I think we do consumer immersions pretty often, right? So we go to consumers and ask them, hey, look, what do you think about us, right? And I think it's always amazing and always surprising to hear people's perceptions of you, right, as a brand, to say, oh wow, this is how people think of us, right? This is what people see of us, and these are things that the data cannot tell us. So how do we bring these soft insights that are actually quite pertinent and build them into our business to build new value propositions or to change how we show up to the consumer? So I think those have been
Mm.
two biggest surprises. But the first one being like the data doesn't lie. People say, oh no, Uber Eats, I would never, but they come in their session and they buy, they convert. And you'll find people converting like 5 times a day, ordering bread, then milk, then a pizza, then
They're suddenly realizing, oh gosh, now I've run out of sugar. My milk's gone.
because it's
And
just
most of us are working all day. So we get home and then we only realize, oh my gosh, the shops are
100%,
closed. Then I've run out of
100%.
food.
100%. Like consumer behavior is very, very, very sticky. So yeah, so I think that's been the biggest surprise for me.
Yeah, no, it's so funny. I mean, my wife and I both work quite late. So when we get home and we realize, okay, cool, we managed to plan groceries for the week, but oh shucks, did you realize we ran out of, I don't know, this ingredient that we need? No. And this is off. We can't eat this.
Yeah,
We're like, oh gosh, what can we do? And it's exactly these kind of solutions at that time. I mean, most people's purchasing habits, I would say, outside of work hours, is probably going to be in the evening when they have the time to actually go, shucks, what am I missing? What do I need to do? What do I need to get? Oh, well, I can't run tomorrow and go and get it. Like, let's try and see if we can place an order now, or at least
that's
secure that for the
That's
week.
true, but I think what we've also learned is because of the power of our platform, with a lot of users, because if you have the Rides app, you can order on Uber Eats and vice versa, right?
Mm,
We've realized, which I think is another insight, how we have the power to shape consumer behavior around missions that are prevalent for them. So for instance, with Fresh Tuesdays, I'm going to make an example. We launched this campaign a few years ago, Fresh Tuesdays, 50% off your fresh. It's Tuesday today, so Kieran, if you haven't gotten your fruit and veg, go to the app and hook yourself up, right? And even though it's we our consumers like, I work late, I don't have time, most of our shopping actually happens during work hours, right? Which is
yeah.
insane.
Oh,
And
really?
yes, they happen during working hours. And so Tuesday is one of our anchor days at Uber where we have to go into the office. If you go to the canteen space, it's just green. It's just Uber Eats market bags everywhere, right? Everyone's doing
Wow.
their Fresh Tuesday shopping. Why? They know that their bananas are gonna run out. Or the nachos are going to run out. So if you don't buy your Fresh Tuesdays early in the day, by the time you get home and you want to buy it, you're left with, things that you don't want or that are not your preference, right? So
Yeah.
you would find people actually block out time, and when you're looking at people's calendars, it's like buy Fresh Tuesdays. They set reminders because they're like, oh my gosh, we've created this habit around Fresh Tuesdays where people buy it. And
Oh.
when we're doing one of our consumer immersions, we were asking our consumers, where do you buy this? Where do you buy that? And consumers say, oh, okay, I buy my meat from this retailer, then I buy this from this retailer, then I buy
Mm,
that retailer. And then one of the families said, and every Tuesday, Uber Eats opens the app to Uber Eats Market and they have fresh. So he thought we only open on Tuesdays, which was very funny and cute. But he knew that on Tuesdays I do my fresh and I do it at Uber Eats Markets. You know what I mean? Like I know that this exists, right? So it's
mm,
interesting how to the point around consumer behavior, you can actually shift it to what you want, right? Yes,
yeah.
there's the instinctive human behavior that you can sort of tap into to say, we do see a mission for late night trade, but there's also an opportunity to say, how can I shift consumer behavior towards buying fruits and veg on Tuesdays, right? Which we've successfully done, right? But sometimes I
Mm,
guess you get a lot wrong. We tried to shift consumer behavior to buying meat on Mondays. It didn't work. People want to touch their meats, and people are very specific about where they get their meat on from. So it was a learning for us. But I think things like Fresh Tuesdays, I think, show that you can actually shift consumer behaviors both on where they buy and second on when they buy.
yeah. Wow. I mean, that's quite a case of getting people into a habit. Eh? I mean, by making that convenience available, people suddenly go, "Well, cool. I've done it twice now. Now it's part of our routine.
Yeah, yeah.
This is how we plan the week."
That's how they plan the week. And what's funny is over December periods, we don't run the promotion because we know people are away. We still saw a
Mm.
spike on Tuesdays
Oh, really?
because there were some who were still in the city who hadn't gone yet.
Yeah.
Outskirts who were still like, well, I buy my fresh on Tuesday, so I guess I'm gonna buy it, even if there's no promotion, because that behavior was cemented.
I'm a firm believer that Joburg in December is the best time to be in
I
Joburg. It is
agree.
finally quiet
I
and
agree.
it's great. You can go anywhere, you can do
You go
anything.
anyway without booking.
Exactly, without booking. So, with all this convenience that's now available to us, do you think we're getting smarter or do you think we're getting a little bit lazier?
I think we're getting more productive, right? Why I'm
Mm,
saying that is it's not a smart, lazy, it's a trade-off, right? And I think especially if you're a working, busy professional, or if you're a even if you're a stay-at-home mom, actually, or if you're a mother, right? If you're a parent, right? Um, your time, every single minute is a trade-off. It's always a trade-off to say, oh, I could be reading a book or doing grocery shopping, or I could be
totally.
spending time with my child or grocery shopping, or I could be working on a new chapter for a new book I'm writing or grocery shopping. Every single thing is a trade-off, right? And I think if you look at things like ChatGPT, Copilot, all these amazing AI tools, they make us so much more productive. I was just telling my team members that I was, working on a model, and trying to show something, and I couldn't figure out how to get a formula over the line because I only know VLOOKUP and some ifs, I don't know other
Yeah,
formulas. And I went to ChatGPT and I said, hey, I'm trying to get my daughter to show this, this, this. I've got this, this, this. And then they said, oh, okay, yeah, here's your formula. I'm just like, wow, like that's so powerful for me to like not spend hours or like have to call a data analyst and like ask for his time and wait for 2 weeks
mm,
to get him to respond in the business. I can just ask ChatGPT, hey, I'm trying to solve a problem now, because I need to make a quick decision. Tell me what formula I should be using on Google Sheets. And
totally.
they told me, right? So that productivity of the time I'd saved, it's fantastic. My husband always uses Copilot to say, "Hey, okay, tell me what I should be deciding on in this email thread. So read this email thread. Tell me what I should
Mm,
be doing. Summarize the notes for me." And that is hyper productivity because time you would have been taking to do manual work that isn't sort of advancing your problem solving or shaping or creating anything new, you can now use tech to actually do for you, right? And I think even with the
Absolutely.
tech at Uber, it sort of customizes to your shopping habits. So if you open a spa or a Woolworths in one area and you shop, and you move to another area, it will tell you, "Oh, okay, these are your favorite SKUs," even though it's a new store because it's learned your behavior and it makes your life easier. So you don't have to now go and search for the banana that you wanted, right? So
Yeah.
it makes us more productive. And I think it advances us so that we can spend time on the things that really, really matter to us.
Absolutely. They're enablers. And I mean, efficiency tools are such an important part of our lifestyles over the last 2 years, how that's become integrated and just how necessary it is. I mean, shucks, I'm a person that loves a notebook. I love a notebook. I, I track everything on a notebook and I score myself at the end of the day. Yet I love doing that. It takes me 5, 10 minutes, but I still spend all day working with thought partners. And I think we covered this in a previous episode where we were looking at LLMs and other kind of tools where they are thought partners. They don't do the thinking for us, but
Mm.
rather they're there to help enable
Able,
us. And there are so many ways that that's expressed. I mean, in
100%.
Uber Eats as a convenience app, it is a total efficiency tool, you
Mm,
know, being able to
100%.
go, cool, well, I could use this extra hour that I was going to spend shopping this
Yeah,
week, you know,
I use
like
it
to
all
your
the time.
point.
And I think a parenting hack for all the parents listening, I usually I order toys for presents on Uber Eats. I love it because you're on your way to the party, you forgot there's a gift, you forgot that
Yes.
you need to buy a gift. I literally just go on like Game and I buy like a truck or a Lego or
Or
something.
something.
I use it as a parenting hack because the time it would take for me to drive to the mall, get out, go pick out a gift, come back
Mm.
in, and I'm a last minute person, so I usually remember like the morning of the party, and my husband will be like, "We don't have a gift, right?" I usually eats and I'll buy like a Lego set, and the child is happy, I'm happy, I've saved time, and as I'm getting ready, the gift is on its way. By the time we have to leave, we leave with the gift. So I think that's another parenting hack of a use case I use it for. But to your point, it's efficiency, it's time, and it allows us then to spend time on the things that we really, really value.
Totally, totally. Ah, shucks, this is actually I'm going to bring a question to you, like more specifically now, just because of the timing of this, and I know it's a bit of a leap, but Women's Month is here.
Mm.
August is here, and I want to know what are you passionate about when it comes to championing women in business and in the STEM fields.
Mm. That's a very, very good question. I think I really am passionate about giving women choice and freedom, right? Really, really, really passionate about that and enabling them, right? So I think why I say that is because I do believe as women, and I think becoming a mother, I've had such a broad perspective of what, you know, we face as women because you're the primary caregiver for a child, and now you've introduced, a new person into your ecosystem. You still have to be a wife. You still have to be a career woman. You still have to sort of
Mm,
problem solve for the nanny at home. She's someone who's, looking to you to look after her and shop for her, right? So I really am about giving women freedom. And freedom for me means more time, giving you time back, and choice,
mm,
right? And I think
yeah,
how I live that in my career and why this career for me is just so important for me as a mother is, and I say this to my clients all the time that um, I have like four different customer archetypes in my home, right? That I need to cater to. I've got me, I'm a customer archetype. I've got my husband, I've got my son, and I've got my nanny, right? So that's four
yeah,
different customer archetypes, not five, rather. Four different customer archetypes that I need to adapt to. They all have different needs, and I have to meet those needs, right? I have to make sure
yeah,
he's got his snacks. He's got his snacks when he needs them. He's topped up, etc. I have to make sure my nanny, her diet is different to our diet. She prefers to eat sorghum, a specific brand. I need to make sure she has that. My husband's got his own needs, right? Like he's a sportsing guy. He wants beer with chili biltong. And then there's me, right? I have to make sure that, my needs, my healthcare needs. I know we've just launched a new healthcare brand on Uber Eats Market called Zoe Healthcare that has women's healthcare supplements on
mm,
it. I have to make sure that my needs are met, both from a healthcare and from just a well-being perspective, right? So I think working in my job and saying, what does that quintessential busy mother need? And it's not just
Yeah.
her, it's what does her son need? What does her pet need, right? I don't have pets, but a lot of my colleagues who are working mothers have pets. What does her pet need? What does the nanny need? What does the husband need, right? And if she's the person who's going to have to be shopping for all these people and catering to their needs, right? Because let's be honest, if milk runs out, they usually say, "Mom, milk is out," right? And I still have to work, and I still have to be and show up and be productive. How do I then use my job to sort of connect with brands that meet their needs and meet their needs
Yeah.
efficiently, effectively, safely, all the time, you know? And that's why I say my job is problem solving, right?
Mm.
I know she needs groceries at 10 p.m. because there's a school cake day the next day. I live it, right? So how do I ensure she gets that? It's safe. She can trust the product. You know, it looks good, it's fresh, etc. So all the concerns she has around like, oh, safety, how do I make sure that those are sort of met through the job that I do, right? So I think for me, empowering women is really time, right? Freedom
Yeah.
to choose, and giving them, you know, and just being that enabler to say, I'm with you on the journey, I'm helping you. Let's advance your life through, you know, finding what else you need that we can sort of fill the gap for, and give you that extra time back.
Yeah, because I mean, championing the ideas of implementation, shall I say, of efficiency tools like we're talking about are such an important part of our life. But it can our lives can entirely become about efficiency. But when
Mhm.
you're a mother, your life is about quality time, and that is probably the rarest commodity. You're always busy thinking about everyone else, and
100%,
I,
100%.
I'm just assuming. But
No,
yeah,
100%. You are. You're always busy thinking about everyone else. And I think that's why there's this whole thing about women and mental load to say we carry a lot of mental load, right? So
mm,
my thinking is, how do I take off that mental load from the busy mom through offering them all these conveniences, and I think to the point about problem solving, it's saying like, you know, we've got this tool called add-ons where you can order more than one thing with the same delivery person, right? Which again is solving for the busy mom. You're ordering your groceries, but then, oh, okay, then pick this up here, you know. So it's two missions, and I don't have to sort of like have two separate deliveries. It can be one guy who just picks both up, right? Which
totally.
makes my life so much easier because then I don't have to, you know, open the gate twice and send the code twice, you know. So it's all these
Mm,
things where we're problem solving around like, how do we give her more time back, right? So she can sort of focus on, in the morning, instead of doing a grocery run, she can take a walk and she can have a cup of tea, or she can have a cup of coffee. She can read a book. She can feed into herself because you can't pour from an empty cup, right? So if we can give you at least 15 minutes of your time back to pour into yourself as a mom, as a woman, as a busy woman, I would say, then I think we've achieved something.
that's an amazing point. That is such an amazing point. I have a story that I have to share with you. And I thought it's just so funny. I have to see what your reaction is. We we used to have a neighbor who, I mean, very busy family. They had you were mentioning pets earlier. They have this big dog that needs to get walked 2 times a day, or it needs to get out of the house before it starts losing its mind and destroying furniture. You know, people with pets. Hey, what they used to do is they used to order, it's a few years back, so at least I can mention it like this. They used to order an Uber driver to come and pick up the dog, take him
Wow.
around the block with the window open, and they would do it like almost every day.
Get that. I get that. I get that. Like
Yeah.
I honestly get that. Like I've used Uber for the craziest things, like the craziest things. So I'm now nesting. I'm, you know, preparing the nursery for my second child. I've literally used Ubers to pick up paints from like the paint shop. I'm like, sorry, you know, I can't use Uber courier or whatever. I'm just gonna have to use a
Yeah.
car. I've used Uber to sort of pick up, you know, big shelves and saying, hey, look, you know, let's please pick up the shelf because I need it, right? Like, and the guy's like, oh, okay, I guess I'm an Uber van, but I'll do it, right? So I think
Wow.
to the point to say, like, if you have the tool, people can use it to solve your problems because everyone's problem is unique, right? But if the tooling is there and it can assist in solving that problem, why not use it, you know?
Absolutely, and it's the creativity of the I say the use case of the tool that is amazing for people to be able to go, okay, well, cool. Shucks, I'm at home. There's no one to help me lift, move, take this. Like I can get someone. I don't have to wait till the weekend for it to be done.
100%, 100%.
Or
And we do that all the time. So as Uber, we use Uber all the time. I remember when we were launching one of our biggest brands, we had to sort of get boxes shipped, boxes with inventory shipped somewhere. And we literally were just like, okay, none of the courier guys can do this at this time. They're all very expensive. Guys, just like use your corp cards and let's order a bunch of Ubers. And we didn't. We just ordered a bunch of Ubers and then like all of them were collecting and we're like, okay, now we need to pack the boxes into the storehouse. And we're like, hey, leave your Uber on so that the time can keep ticking, right? So I can pay you. And then help
mm,
offload. And they offloaded for like 2 hours helping us. And they kept the app running so that we could pay them for the time. And we're like, okay, then it's a wrap, right? So it just shows that like we have so many use cases where we need help, right? And I think and I think I say this to my mommy groups and my mommy friends a lot to say it does take a village, right? Uh,
mm,
we do need community, right? But in our fast-paced city environments, it's hard to have the physical community that we used to have, right? So if you think about a lot of the things that we're using technologies to sort of substitute, they used to exist back in the days when our moms were stay-at-home moms and your granny used to take you to school and then, somebody else used to go grocery shopping, etc. But we don't have that luxury and that convenience anymore of having family close to each other and, having that village that can, help you run your life. So we have to use technology and leverage technology to create that community and to create that hyper convenience that we sort of, don't have anymore due to how fast paced our lives have become.
yeah, and I mean, there's always cases. I think there's probably no shortage of lists where we can kind of come up with solutions for that. I mean, from even at moments where you need to go to a hospital quickly, and I mean, it's not to say medical emergency, but
Yeah,
you can't wait for someone to come pick you up, or you can't drive yourself.
that's a
Let's
real, it's real.
order an Uber.
It's very, very real. The healthcare use case is extremely real, and it's one I lived through. I think after having my first child, where I have to go to the hospital to get his vaccination. My husband is at work. No one can drive me. It's literally just 2 kilometers down the road. I can't drive
Mm,
myself. I still have stitching, right? So what do? Right? I call an Uber. And I hope for the best, and I have to trust the surface, and that's why safety is such an important thing for us as well, right? So
yeah,
it's really real. And I think another example I could give is when the Cape Town's fires came. We sort of as Uber said, hey people, order and deliver grocery, we'll do free delivery, order water supplies and get them delivered, so that people in the Cape Town fires can have supplies, right? You can't
sure.
physically be there, you empathize with them, but you can use your app for good, right? Order
Mm,
water supplies, order this, order that, we'll put them on a discount, we'll put free delivery to enable you. But essentially, we're building, and I think that's why I call it like the virtual mall of Africa, right? If you think about Africa, Africa's big on community, right? It's big on like
mm,
Undu and villages and like, it takes a village, if you think about the concept of that. But if we're a virtual mall of Africa, it means there are use cases that we are solving for that are very unique to the African experience around community, around helping people, around, thinking for everyone, thinking about the nanny, thinking about the pet. That's very African thing to do, right?
totally.
So I think we are the virtual mall of Africa. We're building the virtual mall of Africa. And I think that source of community and of solving problems is very, very core to us. And that's why we take everyone on the journey, the customer, our partners, the couriers. Like couriers are a very big part of our community. We don't launch anything without telling them first, just so you know. So even if we did late night trade, we have to go to our couriers and say, hey, listen, this is what we're doing. What do you think? And we have to get their inputs. They're part of our community, right? So it
Mm.
is a virtual mall of Africa. And the Africa piece is also not just the location, but the spirit of the continent around community.
That's amazing. And I think this ties beautifully into my final question. It's just perfect. Mind the gap, we're all about where is the gap in what we're looking at. So in retail, leadership, or society, What do you think we're not paying enough attention to?
Oh, that's a really good question. I would say we're not paying enough attention to, I think, to each other and to caring, right? To caring for each other. I think we're not paying enough attention to that. I think businesses have morphed into, and I think it's a tragedy, really. Businesses have morphed into profit-making centers and forgotten that um, the reason you can exist is because of caring about the customer, caring about your employees, right?
Mm,
There's a book I've read, Hard Things About Hard Things, and it says the people, the product, the profits in that order. Start with the people, right? So I think the gap we're sort of starting to miss is caring about people in business, right? And caring
yeah.
about their well-being. And if you sort of look at like the rise in burnout and the rise in anxiety at work, and if you look at like the TikTok content on people taking videos of themselves quitting, and people watching those videos, imagining themselves quitting, that I feel like is almost like a rot in society that has come because we're chasing the profits before the people, right?
Mm,
We're chasing money before purpose, right? So I think caring about people, I think, is the biggest gap. And I feel like if you really care about people, I believe the profits always follow. And I think a really great example that I could give of a brand that I really think does this well is Chick-fil-A, right? So
yeah.
Chick-fil-A, amazing chicken sandwich brand in America, like has been killing it and keeps killing it, right? They have this philosophy that we don't open on Sundays. We give our employees time to rest on Sundays. That is their philosophy. And as soon as they made that decision, the profits rose, right? Um,
Mm,
they take care of their employees. They take their employees to leadership development courses. They really train them. And for me, it's such an important thing in business to say, if you center it around the people, right? The people who work for you, the people you're serving, right? I don't think you'll ever get it wrong because you're centering it around where your value comes from. Firstly, your value does come from your employees delivering really great value to your customers who are
mm,
also people, right? And if you get that right, I think that's when the profits follow. But I think businesses have sort of flipped the order and want to please investors, etc. And so they miss that gap, and that's where you start seeing the decline. I think you'll see brands like Nike where they said they're pulling away branding budgets. They want to direct to consumer, and they lost it because you lost the people. People want to interact with the shoe. They want to see the shoe. They want to feel
yeah.
it. You know what I mean? And they lost it, and that was the gap that they had. They captured our hearts. You bought Nike because you loved it, right? Not
Mm,
because it was a more superior shoe than Adidas, right? But that was the gap, and they lost it, right? And a lot of brands who lose it sort of miss the customer and the employee and sort of chase the profits, right? So I think that for me is the gap that I think business is starting to miss. And I think it's sad because the downside is how people get sick at work and how people are unhappy, and it's not great for me to see as a leader. And it's one of the gaps I'm very mindful of as a leader to sort of keep in my team to say, yes, we're building this amazing virtual mall of Africa. We're young kids with a big ambition, but we're people first.
totally. That's absolutely brilliant. When we started this podcast, you spoke about um, people centric, consumer centric, customer centric. That's what we're going for. We're ending it with people again. And what you mentioned in our last point about the community, that's
Mm,
something I don't think most people think about when they think about Uber. I don't. I think that's usually the space that they think is a blind spot, maybe, or something like that. To hear it spoken about, and
mm,
the fact that you're looking at everyone holistically as one community, your drivers, your
mm,
consumers,
mm,
your staff.
mm,
Um, it's transformative. It's
mm,
really, really an amazing thing, and to see that lines up with the gap that you're identifying, where companies are not looking at people. I
mm.
think that's telling, and it says that you guys are doing amazing things within this field.
Yeah, we
So
don't always
it's
get it right, I think, admittedly, and I think the news are always bashing us. We don't always get it right, but I think if you work at Uber and if you've worked at Uber, you would know what I'm talking about, right? And if you've seen our story, right, and if you've experienced us in any way at the core, you would know what I'm talking about, right? We don't always get it right, I will admit, because we're a fast-moving company, always trying to break things, and we're okay with failure, and we're okay with being like, the go-getters, right? But I think at the core of that is really just people.
no, Yeah, and it's good that that's part of the vision. I think that's absolutely amazing. Cikida, thank you so much for joining us today. This has absolutely been such a fruitful and such an awesome discussion. It's been such a pleasure.
I'm glad it has. Thank you so much, Kieran, for having me. I appreciate it.
And if anyone watching this has any questions or comments or any experiences they'd like to share around what we've spoken about today, please do put it in. We always love to interact in that space. And it's always so good to see that there is a community around these sorts of discussions. So
Amazing.
thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
That's
you.
lekker.
Between the train and the platform.